Any other public comment? Now we'll take a vote on that. All those in favor? Opposed? Nay. Guess I shouldn't say aye either. Number 3, board members, Councilman Burbidge, discussion for possible action. Discuss the steps necessary to resolve problems surrounding access to Ely Sewer right-of-way for the sewer main maintenance. Act to direct legal counsel to proceed with the due diligence to resolve the matter expeditiously as practical. This refers to the Carson project, which we put out there.
That's correct. DJ, could you summarize the problem that occurred during the walk?
Basically, the biggest problem that's happened through the walkthrough is as that project goes through what appears to be the field of Mr. Carson's, we're on opposite sides of the fence. We believe that there's a right of way through there for our stuff to go in and work on our sewer, replace our sewer. Mr. Carson believes that we do not have the right to do that. His belief is that it's only for maintenance, and new construction isn't maintenance. And so, based on this pre-construction, pre-bid meeting out there with these contractors, there was this very heavy sense of reserve to put a bid in on that project because of the ramifications of stepping into a hornet's nest. So the contractors, there was very heavy air out there in the field. There was a sheriff's officer out there with us to witness what was going on. And so, as in the previous item, like I just mentioned, I think it's in the best interest of the city to pursue this, whether it comes and we get a signed agreement with them on how we proceed across this property or whatever other action our attorney feels is necessary to go through here. But I don't feel it would be the best interest of the city at this point to proceed with the project to potentially get put on hold to resolve disputes during the middle of the project when a contractor shows up to go to work.
Mr. Carson, during the meeting, indicated he would not allow anyone on the premises to take over the manhole covers or the roof of the sewer main. He indicated that in prior discussions had been trespassed and arrested for trespass if anyone got on, any city personnel got on the premises. The sewer mains extend across his field. BJ mapped the location of the pipeline. The pipeline runs in a zigzag pattern according to the original plat map that was filed in 1905. In 1905, when that was platted, there were streets and alleys that were dedicated to the city and the county as rights of way. In 1958, the prior owners, Cat Service was their name, they asked the city council and the county commission to essentially undo the plat, and they asked the city of Ely and the county to vacate those roads. In other words, give the roads back to Cat Services. The city and the county both voted in 58 to give them back those roads, with one exception. It retained a right-of-way for the sewer that existed north and south across that property. Based on that 1958 document, it is clear the city owns that right-of-way, and that right-of-way follows the original plat map for the streets and avenues. What is not clear is exactly what the width of the right-of-way is. We know what the scope of it is. We know that it's for the pipeline. BJ has indicated that it is in fact a clay pipeline, which in 1906 was of good quality and was certainly up to standards in those days. In the last 105 years, those standards have changed, and accordingly, it no longer meets good construction practice or good sewer main practice. And so, the city's proposal in this construction project is to go in and replace and repair what's going on the city's right right-of-way has been fenced. At least probably 3 locations from what I could determine in order to keep everybody out. And the right-of-way has not been preserved as a right-of-way. It's been turned into a field, and the Carsons allow their animals to graze on the city right-of-way. And they were unwilling to budge on allowing city personnel to do anything. And of course, there were 6 contractors there who were interested in bidding the project. One of them was Mr. Carson himself. And 5 contractors who believed they were not going to be able to have good access expressed concern about how they would perform the project. And so the city is, based on BJ's judgment, and it appears in a bit of a quandary. If you in fact want to go in and replace that and perform that work, you have a couple of problems. If there is a lawsuit as a result of this, the city has a duty to mitigate its damages. And that means don't incur damages over and above what you need to in order to exercise your rights to the right-of-way. That's the first rule. You've got to mitigate your damages. We're not going to go and do bad things to hurt anybody. We're going to try and do this as cheaply and as efficiently as can properly be done. After looking at the easement documents, as well as the original plat from 1905, as well as the votes from the county commission and the city council, and being present at the meeting, there appears to be no way for the city to do this that is not expensive. One of your options is to bypass the Carson property and stop providing service to those premises. And we discussed that. In order to do that, based on BJ's estimates, you could spend as much as $250,000 for a pumping station to bypass those premises. And you could also incur annual expenses of up to $50,000 a year for maintenance on the pumping station. That means that your city sewer users or someone is going to have to absorb that extra cost to the city. So that's an expensive option to try and bypass the property. That's because if you bypass to the east and then go back north, your grade drops to the point where sewage no longer flows. My father was a plumber, and one of the first things he taught me was sewage runs downhill. Paydays on Friday. Those are the 2 things you need to know to be a plumber. And so because sewage runs downhill and you don't have any grade, you have a real difficulty in trying to bypass the property. The other option would be to go up to Ogden, and you would have to go very deep there in the ground in order to bury deep pipe and bypass that piece of property. And so your expenses for excavation and just manpower and digging the trench that deep. Plus, when you go that deep with trenching, obviously you have human safety issues because deep trenches occasionally collapse in on people. And so that didn't appear to be a really good, inexpensive option for the city either. And so those are 2 options that involve not accessing the Carson property. If you want to access the Carson property, you are going to have to get a declaration from a district judge that says, this is where the city sewer line is, this is the width of the city sewer line, and this is what the city is allowed to do to protect its right-of-way and maintain it. If you choose that option, what I would probably be doing is going in and asking the district court judge for a restraining order keeping anyone from interfering in the city using its right-of-way. In addition, asking the judge to order somebody, either us or them, to redo the fencing so that the city right-of-way is no longer fenced off from them. And if they want to run animals everywhere except the right-of-way, they certainly can do so. And then probably install some sort of a roadway so that we can get access to the sewer line in order to clean it out in the past. When I spoke with city utility officials, they indicated that they have had trouble getting access to those sewer mains to do work when there were problems. And so that's not something that we can allow to continue. As I understand from BJ, the downtown Ely Business District and Central Ely all drain through that field. And so if you lose that sewer line, you damage every business in downtown Ely, along with every residence in Central Ely. And of course that would be a truly expensive proposition. So I just need direction from you. I'm sure BJ would like some direction as well. And that's the discussion that we would have had in front of the utility board. And obviously, if you decide to take action, it's probably more proper under the next new business. But I think that apprised you at least of what we foresee and I foresaw as the difficulty with that sewer project.
It's not on there again. That's not on there. It's on. So, how long would it's on, that's on there, it's on there. If you get a district court judge, what's the time frame, just a guess?
Lawsuits are infamously slow, and our district courts are busy, but with luck. And we do have an additional judge that I understand may be available to hear these kinds of matters. You could probably get a temporary restraining order. I did one of these last summer, and I got it done in 2 months.
But if we got a temporary restraining order, we could put a fence up and go back on the bid process, or we have to wait till the lawsuit's all the way done?
If I get a temporary restraining order, you could probably, depending on the exact terms of the restraining order, go in and be over. You could certainly go do your walkthrough. You could certainly do maintenance. Well, frankly, the likelihood if I get a temporary restraining order is that everybody will stop fighting and will achieve some sort of settlement. Because in order to achieve a temporary restraining order, I have to show a likelihood that the city will prevail on the merits of the lawsuit. And if I can show a likelihood that the city will prevail on the merits of the lawsuit, there's not much reason to go forward with the lawsuit, quite frankly. So in my experience, and I've done 4 of these, once you get a preliminary restraining order, that's usually, or a temporary restraining order, that's normally the end of the hunt.
And the reason I brought this up, usually about a year and a half ago, I think, was because we did the sewer, we replaced the sewer line from probably out from the canals to where it ends almost to Keith Carson's property, and the sewer pipe was not in good shape there at that time. And so we've been talking about this for a year and a half and haven't gone anywhere. So I think myself, that's the way only I see we can proceed.
BJ, how much longer can this thing hold out the way it is then, even in the condition that it's in? How much peril are we exposing the business district to? As well as this
It's
thing
an extremely terrible situation if it does fail. Actually, the condition of it, I can't answer that. My understanding was multiple years ago when the city was cammering some of their sewer to see what type of shape they were in. It was my understanding some years ago they were not allowed down there to camera that, so we really have no indication of how bad it is. Dale's 100% correct. We have an indication of how bad it is because they connected on it 2 years ago, coming from it. We're basically new from the treatment plant to the south side of the railroad tracks, and so at that connection on the south side of the railroad tracks, I think it left a lot to be desired.
Is there any danger of imminent failure that would imperil the current situation of drainage from this part of the city?
Well, it would be a
Especially
terrible
considering the recent weather.
It would be a terrible situation if it failed. I mean, if it failed, we would have to quickly get something in order and come and do what Rich is saying on a temporary basis. We would have to pump it across the failure. And so that would be very costly, very expensive, and, you know, the tough part about that would be coming and getting, you know, a pump station in place that would be able to pump the amount of sewage. I think it's 450 gallons a minute, I believe, is what we estimate is going down that line. And so it's a pretty good flow for a trash pump to basically come and do this. You know, we would have to, at that point in time, we would have to have access across the property. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts in an emergency situation, what we would have to do. I mean, I guess we could come and potentially go around, but it would be a nightmare situation. It would be
The Mason piece, when we talked about this before, when I first brought up, if I remember, it was about 42% or 43% of the sewage goes across there.
Yeah, it's a big percentage.
It's a big percentage, and there is no way to get around it. That was why we wanted to.
Yeah. How big around is the pipe?
It's a 15-inch.
I think it would be appropriate to put forward a motion to, in fact, proceed, our esteemed council to proceed with all due diligence to resolve this matter as expeditiously as possible. So it's a move.
I second
Very good.
Is that good enough?
I don't know if you want to be public comment.
Public comment.
Public comment on this? No, just us, maybe that was the motion. Would you like that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you've got this map that was given at a utility board in the past. My concern as a taxpayer is the council talked about mitigating damage, ease of access, and least expensive. Going down Crawford, attaching on the 7th Street is a factor you need to look at. You're not going to be crossing Carson's Field but maybe once or twice, if that. And you're going to have a straight shot. We need to move on this thing. If you go zigzag across that field, we're going to have to maintain anywhere from 2 to 6 gates. What's the ease of access there? There's no mitigation there.
We've talked to Carson, we've had 2 meetings with Keith and Paula, and at no time would they allow any other right of way except there. They would not even talk about going through their property.
Well, there's always the eminent domain, and it's for a
Well,
public
eminent
purpose.
domain would take longer than this.
Well,
You've been into it for a year and a half.
We already have a right.
you already have a right of way. If you're going to condemn a different piece of property, you're going to have to pay for it. And that again is going to be a
That's
cost.
going to cost more to the city to buy this property.
Plus, the amended domain proceedings take not only time, but a great deal of money as well, and then to the advertising and everything else that goes along with it. Although that is definitely something to take into consideration.
You're only looking at maybe 350 feet, unless I'm wrong on this map.
Is that being considered?
Grade-wise, it doesn't work. We looked at it.
You'd have enough pressure coming down from
It's
Crawford to push it.
Sewer isn't under pressure. Sewer is gravity flow.
Okay, 450 gallons a minute, I would think that you'd have some pressure.
I would hope not, because the sewer line has a lot of pressure. Sewer line.
Any other public comment?
I just gonna make the comment that you don't want any spillage on that property also, if you have a failure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got environmental problems.
What's the anticipated width that we would need to be able to work within there?
The way it's laid out, as Richard said, that we don't know what that width is, but we base our width being the original right-of-way through there was a 50-foot right-of-way during the roads and a 16-foot right-of-way down the alleys. As I expressed earlier when we were in the middle of these plans, we were fortunate, and Keith and Paula did allow us on their property, in the past to go out there and actually trouble it and survey it so we could actually lay out this line. We were fortunate that the way the design is working is going down the alleys. We weren't centered in the alleys. We were actually off to the side, so it allowed us to be able to go in and work within our easement alongside it, leave it in place, and still work within our easement. So 16 feet is very constricting to try to work in. It does happen because we have sewer in the community here that runs down a lot of these alleys, and they're coming to replace them and working in these alleys. It adds to the cost. It adds to the difficulty of working.
We know what the 1905 plot map had specified as the width.
It was a 50 feet and 60 feet.
That was
That's
15
where-
and 16,
yeah.
depending on whether it was a street or an alleyway.
Yes, that's where those numbers were coming from, the original map.
My best guess would be that if you were going to go in and ask a judge for a declaration of the width, he would probably, or she would probably ask questions about what kind of equipment you would need to get in there. Do you need an excavator? Do you need a dump truck? Do they need to be able to pass each other on the road when they're digging out the dirt? Some of that dirt may need to be removed. Water may need to be pumped out. And so I think the mechanical needs of repair and replacement would probably dictate what a judicial officer is going to say about a proper width. And I would expect an expert in digging up sewer lines and replacement to come in and testify and tell us, you got to be able to use an excavator whose tracks are this wide, the dump truck is going to be this wide, they're going to have to be able to pass each other without going on the person's property. And you're going to want a certain kind of bed, I would assume you're going to want some sort of gravel bedding, that heavy equipment to be in there so that you don't further damage the sewer line when you're in the wood. So I think that would probably dictate the width of it. Probably could not exceed 50 feet, okay, because that was the original plat, without maybe condemning more property, because you don't want to expand the scope. But my gut feeling tells me 50 feet is plenty wide for all those pieces of equipment.
You got a motion and a second, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Actually, I had one quick little comment. Has anybody considered getting Carson to go in and do it? If you actually pay him to do the job,
Ma'am, please come in like Clayton.
and if you pay him to do the job, it's on his property.
We
And
have,
then we don't have the.
we have to bid by statute, any job out over $50,000 has to be bid.
Get him to bid on it.
We tried.
They won't even try.
We tried, he has to go, everybody has to go through, as you heard, he wouldn't let anybody on the property. So
Well, if he's the only one bid, because nobody else
Well,
bothers.
that doesn't serve public,
I know, and I agree. But that would stop the litigation issues.
well, does it?
Might be cheaper.
We don't know that. Now, move on to the next one, board members, Public Works Director Jenkins, City Clerk Treasurer Rogan, discussion for possible action, approval of Cassell Clarity Software and Services proposal for the utility backflow management in an amount of $6,800. What's up?
Well, according to Ron, the Bureau of Safe Drinking Water requires us to have an electronic reminder for commercial businesses for backflow. And I know we have to have it up by sometime this month. I thought he said like next week we have to have it up and running. But what it is, it's going into our Cassell system, our utility management system, and it's going to notify us when there's going to be, when it's their turn to do backflow checking.
But those types of systems would be certified annually.
Yes.
And so it's just going to be a check based on what kind of years we're probably, I'm assuming what it is. I haven't worked on what we're talking about, but the reminder that I believe they would be looking for, so annually when, business number A put in a backflow system that, it comes to us in Cassell, and a year later it's reminding us is we need to get a recertification from business A. That's what I would anticipate that it was for.
But we don't have any businesses with backflow preventers as of yet, do we?
Supposedly, I think we do. I think we need it, right?
Basically, the backflow prevention program was approved, and Ron is in the process of implementing that. And so I can't answer if there are any businesses now that have been based on that program. Is Ron and his guys are going and doing inspections on the most critical businesses that has the potential to impact if we have any backflow situation. So they've selected their critical businesses, and they're gonna go back and do an inventory and an inspection on those businesses and give them a recommendation of this is what you need to see done. That starts the process on their side, where then that business has a certain amount of time frame to go take the information that was presented to them by the city and come back with the city plan and say, here's our action plan, here's how we're gonna get in compliance with what needs to be done. And so this would be a process that will monitor.
Two questions. First of all, I'm going to make the presumption, because I don't like to assume anything for obvious reasons, but I make the presumption that, this is the least expensive software package available that will meet the specified
We have an
requirements.
alternative method that we did talk about today.
Ah,
I did talk with them today about this. Another alternative method is we track it on a spreadsheet. But there's a downfall to that. There is, like, if somebody's out or if it's not followed through, then the plan won't work. But that's the alternative method, is to keep it on a spreadsheet and keep track of it on a spreadsheet.
well, it sounds strange to me, because, we've all got cell phones sitting in our pockets that have timers on them that, can be set to remind us of a variety of different functions a year in advance, and that we might, have everybody's cell phone set to that to remind us to look at the spreadsheet, which sounds a lot less expensive than $6,800. My other question is, what kind of a platform is this thing going to be running on? Is it going to be floating on a PC or what?
Yep.
Well, according to their thing, the licensing fees are the most expensive part of that. That's not the, I think it's a nice idea, but it seems like it's an awful expensive for, I don't know how many we have. I thought when we first put this in,
Only for businesses.
I know, it's only for businesses. And we just had to have it in place, and then we were gonna start seeing.
Yes, and then that's what the plan is just starting to get implemented. And so I can't tell you how many Ron has gone through and inspected, and had online or has given them corrective actions that need to be taken care of. I don't know how many that is. It appears that it could be definitely costly for what you're doing. I believe this would probably be their easy way of going, because it's a part of the software that they're already using. And so that would be the ease, from a financial standpoint, is the smartest thing to do, but you can't come and create a spreadsheet. And, I don't have the answer to how many are actually online right now. Are we tracking 2 businesses right now? I don't know. I can't answer that. Ron, you can answer that.
That's a good, I think what Randy says, he thinks that he'd be able until Ron's here.
Yeah, Ron has that answer. I don't have that answer.
Let me ask you a question. I agree with that completely, but before we choose to table this, what you're describing, correct me if I fell asleep and missed something, but what you're describing here is simply a system that reminds us, we come to work in the morning, we turn our computer on, and it says, Acme Hotel is up for its yearly inspection.
I believe that's what it is.
That-
I don't work with Cancel myself, but I would assume that that's exactly what it is. When you're working Cancel that day,
And this is simply, and I'm not saying it's not complicated or worth a lot of money, but this is simply the software
Right,
that does this.
right.
On-
When we log into Cassell,
On
it's
a-
supposedly supposed to send us an alert. We're supposed to click on the button that says backflow, and it'll pull up saying, hey, this is a reminder, I need
And this is-
your assistance with this, I need you to fulfill what we're requesting. And once a year, we're supposed to send it to the Bureau of Safe Drinking Water, showing that we are complying with them.
And this is just the software.
It's just the software.
I know the email program we have at school has a calendar on it, so does every other email program I've seen the last 20 years that will, keep up the same
That,
stuff.
that's why I asked them today if there was any alternative methods that we can use for the time being.
I think tabling is a good idea. So,
And that's what he suggested, is putting on a spreadsheet and just keep track of that.
Well,
I think you made the motion.
but I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second it.
Is there any public comment before we vote?